let's just start with really that wrestling that you had with your identity whenever you were drinking, you were making choices that weren't champion choices. And so you weren't getting the result that you wanted, and you had some anger and, you had to deal with all that. There's so many of us in the world that are good at what we're doing, or we have a lot of potential and a lot of people talk us up, and then it gets hard and it's really difficult. And it comes down to the only performance barrier is us, right? We're the ones that get in our own way. And so just share a bit of that journey in terms of just, the wrestling of how did you, I don't know, figure out that this is what you were want to do. I mean, I know certainly watching those players, but you had some space in between there that was definitely a time for you to figure out really what you're all about.
Yeah, I don't really know what it was. I think a lot of it was I didn't know whether I loved or wanted to be a professional footballer. And that was probably my wrestling. And I was good, and mum and dad got me into it, and I was making all these teams, but I didn't know whether I really loved it and whether it was what I wanted to do. And so I just constantly had this wrestling match with myself. I loved it, but I didn't love it. And so I probably gave that out to the world of the coaches. They're like, oh, look, you're really good, but your attitude sucks and you don't really feel like you want to be here. So, like, how can I pick a guy with a bad attitude that just, he goes hard, he does pretty well, but he's poorly behaved. He goes out drinking. He still turns up on the Saturday and plays half drunk, and so you're sending out all these wrong messages. And probably the biggest moment for me was mum and dad, and I love them to bits, and they were awesome. And don't get me wrong, because they were just my rock, but they were almost looking through the lens of Ben Sigmund, the soccer player, not Ben Sigmund, the son that they brought into this world, and unconditional love around whatever you want to do. And so I had that fighting internally with them. And just one day out of the blue, they were like, what are you doing with your life? And I'm like, well, what are you doing with my life? You're trying to make me live this life of a footballer that I don't even know if I want to be him. And I just gave them a few home truths, which was at the time was really horrible. And it was more about I want you to love me for being Sigmund. I want you to just love me for not the soccer player. It's just me. And they took it really hard. And it probably took about 2 to 3 weeks for them to kind of understand where I was coming from. But they gave me a call about 2 weeks later, and I was done. I was like, I want you to love me for Ben. I don't want you to love me for the soccer player. That's plain and simple. And they rang me and they said, look, and I get emotional about it, because they rang me and says, look, we understand. We're here for you. We'll support you with whatever you do. And that was like the moment that I just wanted to hear that. We love you. And that was it. And from that moment, that was the day that I just went, right, okay. And then they never ever put any pressure on me. All I got was a text message was, good luck for the game, Ben. We love you. And that's all I wanted. And then the rest, I took care of the rest. The training, the working hard, the wanting to be there. And it just turned it around within 12 months. So that was it. That was my anger. That was where it was.
And just that power of love. I mean, wow, right? I mean, so many, it's such a primal thing that I think happens so much in sport, is that do people really love us for who we are, or do they love our performance? And that gets really confusing, especially as athletes. We start very young. We start when our identity is being formed. And so we're no longer 8 years old or 9 years old and, playing catch with the family and having fun family. We grow up super quick. And, I too left home very early and can relate to your story 100% in terms of we just turn into these like mini machines that start working at a very, very young age. And then the whole family is attached to our performance, and that's our identity. And we're introduced that way. And, it's very powerful. It's somewhat intoxicating in terms of, but we don't have any tools in our little bitty person toolbox to really understand kind of what to do with it. And then we feel like if we win, we're a winner. If we lose, we're a loser. I mean, it just gets, it's so performance driven, and that's a horrible way to live. And I really appreciate and respect what you said about the emptiness, about, you know, whenever we're angry or the drinking or, you know, the bad choices, bad attitude, there's a message in there. Like, you know, we all want to be really good people. And if we're not performing as that champion that we want to be, there's a reason why, you know, and instead of just criticizing us, can we go to, how can I serve and support? Like, how can I help so that we have the ability to figure this out without it ruining us or our families or, you know, any of that. And so again, back to competitive greatness, we talk about truth. You shared that in a beautiful way. The next one is faith, and really, you know, finding a faith in your team, in your teammates, in yourself, like having faith in my belief. And so take us through how you started to have faith in yourself.
So again, it's great. It's a great question. And because I always had that, I didn't know whether I loved the game. I needed something else to love it. Mm-hmm. And so what it was when I went professional, it was like, I want to be the soccer player that all the New Zealand young kids look up to and inspire to be like. And I needed to be that. That was me. And so, for an example, we've only got one professional soccer team here, and you've got, you know, say 300,000 kids. So you're not very likely going to be a professional. But I wanted those young kids to be able to look up to me and want to be like Ben Sigmund. And to be that Ben Sigmund, you had to be a good role model, right? And so it was like that when I was playing as well. It was like, man, I don't know if I want to be out there today because I don't love it all the time. But what kept me motivated is I've got to play well and I've got to do well because I want all those young kids to look up to me, to inspire to be like me. And so that's how that was my faith, because that's what kept me going, because at times I hated the game. I didn't even want to be out there. But I was like, no, I've got to show those kids who I'm going to be. And that's what kept me going.
And so, Ben, that is so much about our three dimensions: personal, professional, and philanthropic. And so philanthropically, you were giving hope. And what's ironic about the whole giving hope component is that it became your why for you to really show up for those kids. And, you know, it really anchored you in something so much bigger than you. And, you know, all those things that we hear, but we're getting to feel it as we really talk about that with you. And as much as you were giving and inspiring those kids, they were giving you such hope for you to really be about being so much better for them rather than just playing for yourself.